I say I'm the man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am? I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm the man? I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know who I am.
So confused in this life full of mystery. Guess I'm glad it ain't a life full of misery. I wanna dance, I wanna fly, I wanna let it free. But that's a different side of people they don't wanna see. I've been caught up in my mind sometimes, so I rhyme around just to feel alright. And when the rhyming did good, that's when I just understood it was by design. And when I feel this way, I just walk and talk to appear this way, baby. I don't know what to say, baby. I don't know what I am, baby. That's just how I play, baby. Yeah.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm the man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am?
Powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to another edition of Unconventional Playbook. I'm your host, Lionel Jones. The music that you heard is from Latreille. Keep hitting that like and subscribe button, keeping the station going. I am here again with my guy, the sports guru of Minnesota, Mr. Patrick Buchanan. Pat, how you doing, man?
Hey, Coach, I'm here now. I'm good. How you doing?
Not bad, man. It's good weather outside. Maybe a little bit too good to be inside doing the podcast, but the UP calls, so we got to do what we got to do, man. Anything special planned for the rest of your week?
Yeah, I got my last basketball tournament I'm running this weekend. So, the prep hoops tournament. So, last one that I'm running for the season. It's its own circuit. So that's pretty much what I'm doing, and get ready for another little vacation.
Man, you one of the busiest persons on the planet. I mean, man, you doing a little bit of reffing, you're doing a little bit of ADing, you got your tournament going. You got to find some time to kick back and relax, Pat.
Oh, I'm about to find time to kick back and relax, man. That relaxation is about to come a lot more into this month and beginning of August. So I'll find more time for myself to relax. I just had a couple of days of relaxation, right? Family was out of town. I was relaxing then.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's time to relax, but there's also a time for us to start to get ready for something that we've been looking forward to for a long time. I know I've been looking forward to it. You've been looking forward to it. Minnesota Vikings training camp. So today we are going to talk a lot of Vikings. We're going to give the UP what they want. For those of you that don't know, but you will learn, Pat and I love to talk Minnesota Vikings news, Minnesota Vikings personnel. So I've been really, really looking forward to the day. The one thing that we're going to do today is we're going to give you 5 things. Pat has, his 5 things that he would like to see. It could be, 5 things that he would like to see in training camp, 5 things that he would like to see in terms of the outcome of the season, maybe some questions that he wants answered. Same thing on my side. I'm going to come up with 5 things that I want to see from the Minnesota Vikings, whether it's training camp, season, what have you, but just some things that I have some question marks about that I want to see. Pat, you down?
Oh, I'm down for sure.
All right. So I'm going to start off giving you my first thing that I would like to see from the Minnesota Vikings, and then we're just going to alternate back and forth. The one thing I want to find out this year, Pat, is who is KOC? I've seen glimpses of KOC. Obviously, he's from the Sean McVay tree. When he was initially getting interviewed and he initially got hired by the Minnesota Vikings, people called him the quarterback whisperer. People called him an offensive genius. And not that he's been terrible, but I don't think he's been great either. I haven't seen that offensive genius side of things. The one thing I will say, what was really, really impressive, when Josh Dobbs came in that one game, really didn't know the playbook, and KOC walked him through every play, every possession. I think you saw a glimpse of who KOC is and what his acumen is on the offensive side of the ball. That was really impressive. But the one thing that I haven't seen from KOC since he's been here is a consistent running game. You know, he's been iffy on that side of the ball. I think last year we had one of the worst running games in the league. Obviously, they signed Aaron Jones, so I expect that to improve. Sean McVay is not a heavy run guy, but running the ball is something that's really paramount in his offense. And KOC was the offensive coordinator for the Rams. So I want to see how that stacks up. I want to see how the offensive line stacks up. He's finally turning this roster over, Pat, to the point where he's starting to get his personnel in here. And he inherited a team from Zimmer. Now he got his quarterback in there. He picked Sam Darnold. They obviously chose J.J. McCarthy. So I want to see what he does with his supposed style of quarterback. This is a prove it year for KOC. Again, I don't expect for them to be world beaters, but when you look on the defensive side of the ball, Pat, I think you would agree with this. Brian Flores came in and inherited a bad defense. And even though that defense was ranked 28th in the league last year, I believe, you still could see Brian Flores' fingerprints and his philosophy all over that defense. And I know that the Minnesota Vikings have some holes and some question marks on the offensive end, but I just want to see KOC's fingerprints and his philosophy all over this offense like we saw from Brian Flores' defense. What are your thoughts about KOC?
Yeah, I think we saw his fingerprints in year one. We had Dalvin Cook though, right in the backfield.
That's true,
right? So when that loss, when you lose that, I don't think you can see it. And it's been this influx of offensive line, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, in my opinion, right, you're coming in as a new coach, right, and you're your head coach and your play calling. Right. And sometimes, in my opinion, I feel like, relinquish the play calling so that you can establish yourself in all three phases of the game. Right. Offense, defense, special teams. Right. As a head coach, having the pulse on everything. Right. And I feel like, first year we were able to see some things. Second year, I don't think
you hesitated on that, Pat. You hesitated on that.
I mean, it was, I mean, you had a lot of injuries, right? These close games though, man, they're continuous. Like first 2 years is these close games and you either winning or you losing by 1-score games, right? And I get it. That's the way it is. But, I probably 80% of the games we played since it's been 1-score games, right? And we got to make sure that we on the top side of that. But for KOC, man, I just continue to progress, right? Make sure this is moving, right? You have different moving pieces in there now. There's no Kurt, right? Which, to be honest, I'm happy. So there's no Kurt, but how are you going to handle Sam Darnold and the progression of the J.J. McCarthy, right? So it's you have a potentially run game this, now. So let's see what you really can do. So I just put more of your fingerprint on it, be more creative. I want to see more creativity within it, that offense, right?
Yeah, when KOC, no criticism or shade thrown his way. I think that when you inherit any team, I mean, I've taken over programs, whether at the high school level and college level, and the one thing that you want is your players on the roster that kind of fit in your philosophy. I don't think KOC has had that, but this is year number 3 for KOC. And as this roster continues to turn over slowly but surely, we're going to get his style of players in there. So that's when you're really going to be able to measure that guy as a head coach, because I'm sure for what he really wants to do, he's kind of been handcuffed a few years, and now he gets an opportunity to kind of do things his way from this year on to the future years. So I'm really, really excited for KOC. What's your number one thing you want to see, Pat, coming out of Vikings training camp or the season?
Not even that. I got, number one thing is outside of the quarterback play. My question really is what do you think their biggest hurdle is? Right?
Yeah.
What is the outside of quarterback play? We know that right now. What is their biggest hurdle coming into camp? Right? And my thing, like as I think about that, I'm like, man, what? Okay, I think the offensive line has some more stability there. It's two things: is our cornerbacks, right? How we're going to defend there, and our run game, right? And I think those are the two biggest hurdles that can dictate how we go this year: is our cornerback play and our Aaron Jones. So I'm hopeful, right, that Shaq, can help us, on the edge. Hoping these other young guys, can help us out there, right? He's obviously, he's going to be able to blitz and do things like that, but we got to get some takeaways, man.
Yeah.
We got to get some takeaways.
Big time.
And so I'm just, what is our hurdle, right? And there's so many different things, but, I wanted to throw it at you and kind of ask you, what do you think the biggest hurdle is, right? Outside of quarterback play.
Yeah, great question. There's a lot of different things you can point at in terms of hurdles, but I think if we had KOC on this program, he probably would agree with me on this. A big hurdle is just not turning the ball over. Like earlier in the season, I think the Vikings could have came out on top on a few of those games if they had not turned the ball over at key times, fumbling the ball, just finding new and different ways to give the ball back to the other team. So I know that that's something that the Vikings coaching staff really stresses. For some reason, that didn't get to the players last year because we just had a high turnover rate. We were losing the turnover battle. And in the NFL, man, if you turn the ball over, way too much, you're not going to win many ball games. So I think you're right in terms of what you look at as hurdles. But for me, I just want to see them take care of the ball because I can't remember specifically what the stat was, but it was like anytime the Vikings won the turnover battle, like KOC was like 14-1 or something like that. I know I'm close, so don't quote me on that stat, but I know the stat is close to that. And when they had games where they lost a turnover battle, it was flipped. So it seems to me that if the Vikings take care of the ball, KLC and his staff are pretty successful. So that would definitely be a hurdle that I think the Vikings need to try to overcome. I got one for you, Pat. Something that I want to see. We all know how big of a fans you and I are of Jets. Justin Jefferson, huge fan, number one wide receiver in the NFL. To me, it's not even close. You can put Jamar Chase and these guys up there, but there's nobody like Justin Jefferson. I'm interested to see, this is going to be his first year in his career where he doesn't have Kirk Cousins under center. And I'm not a huge Kirk Cousins fan, but I think it's safe to say the one thing that he did do, he worked well with Justin Jefferson. I mean, both of them complemented each other. This year, we walk into the unknown. And I know Justin Jefferson said it really doesn't matter who's throwing me the football. I hope he's right because he's either going to have Sam Darnold back there or J.J. McCarthy back there. And who knows what chemistry things may come into play until quarterback and receiver gets on the same page. I don't think it's going to be bad, but I do think it's an unknown because he knew Kirk Cousins well. Kirk Cousins knew him well. And when you change that dynamic, anything can happen. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's, but I'm taking this, man, to hopefully, he talks about, he talks about his leadership. Oh man, where'd that come from? Oh, he talks about his leadership, right? And that's what I'm really looking forward to is like his leadership, like JJ, right? Are you right now, right? I know you in town, right? You with these guys, right? You with McCarthy, you with Donald, you with Mullins, right? Whoever, right? and they're getting to understand you better and how you run your routes and, when you're expecting the ball to come, what placement on these, right? So I think those conversations, I believe, are happening and probably getting out on the field some, throwing it with each other. That's the one thing that I worried about. But then I realized, like, Kirk, that if we sat here and said, like, JJ's, couldn't be successful unless, Kirk Cousins was quarterback, then we saying that the more valuable person is Kirk Cousins and he dictates everything that Justin Jefferson does. No, he doesn't, right? He's his own man. He's an own person, own player out there. And, sometimes there are quarterbacks that make wide receivers, but this was a wide receiver. Even when he came back, he never had Kirk Cousins from his injury last year. And he still was able to put up the 1,000 yards that he was able to do. So, he'll be fine. I think the other ones will be fine. It's going to show when the cameras are on, though, because there's going to be frustrating moments. He had frustrating moments with Kirk, right? What is it going to look like when the cameras are on in those frustrating moments when you don't get the ball or they didn't read the defense right and something right through their growing pains or whatever that they're going to have within this. So I think that's why you got training camp, knock the kinks out, and hopefully they can get the kinks knocked out, man. But I think JJ's still going to be JJ, right? I still just think, who's ever back there, I still think JJ's, 12, 13, 1,400 yards and double-digit touchdowns, right? 1,000 ball, he's still going to catch 1,000 balls, right? If I'm wrong, then something ain't going right for the Vikings, but I don't believe I'm wrong in that. So that's my opinion, right? I don't think I'm wrong in that, right? He's still going to be able to do what he does, right?
Yeah.
It's him. It's him. It's not a quarterback that defines him.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. No way was I implying that Kirk Cousins made JJ. JJ, I feel like you could put probably not any quarterback back there, but you could put a good majority of quarterbacks back there. And Justin Jefferson, I mean, he's a force multiplier. Whoever the quarterback is, he makes them better for sure. Lionel Jones and Patrick Buchanan here on Unconventional Playbook. Pat, what's your number two?
Number two, I don't. It's right now. It's not really expectations. It's like questions, right? Will we ever see Lewis Seen consistently on the field? Is this it? Right?
That's a good one, man. That's a good one, Pat.
Like that's a burning question, right? Because let's be honest, that was Kwesi's first pick ever, right? And don't get me wrong, we praised him in a different podcast of how fantastic he's done this offseason, right? So this is, it's growth. We can look at growth. We could say Lewis Seen was your first draft pick, and now you're getting JJ McCarthy and Dallas Turner. Well, you've done way better, right?
Yeah.
So that's the question. Like this young man, this high praise, SEC school, man. I felt he was coming along, and then the broken leg, and overseas in London there that game versus the Saints, and since then I don't know, and so I'm like, if you look at him on the depth charts, he's probably be number 3 on the depth chart right now, right? Not number 2, not number 1. Was that just a lost pick for us?
I hope it's not a lost pick, Pat. And I think you bring up a great point. That was a good one. Lewis Seen, I just don't understand how a player of his caliber, looking at the institution that he came from, where he was drafted, all of a sudden forgetting how to play the game of football. And all the reports that's coming out of Vikings training camp is this. It is not his physical attributes that are hindering him from being the player that the Vikings thought that he would be. Now, granted, he had the broken leg, but I haven't heard anything out of Vikings offices or training camp or OTAs whatever you want to call it. I haven't really heard anything that he can't perform. What I've been hearing is he's having trouble picking up Brian Flores's scheme. And so hopefully he knew that going into the offseason, and he spent more time on studying the playbook and making reads, because that's where I think he's having trouble. The thing with him is that he's at a position where we are extremely talented and we are extremely deep. So that makes him expendable. That keeps him on that third string edge in terms of being a safety. The one thing I hope the Vikings don't do is that if they feel like he's not going to make the roster, that they just let him go. Like, I think he has some trade value. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not saying he's going to get you a first, second, third, fourth round pick, but I would just hate to see a player of that caliber that you taught it out of college very high, and then he can't make the team and we just let him go. Like, I think that's a lost asset. I think that's lost value.
Yeah. I mean, right now, for what we expected for a first round pick is lost value right now, though, for us. Right?
It is.
If you look at it, right? The kid hasn't been out there. I would love to see him out there. Do I come into games? The last year and a half, have I come into games, or even last year? Right? I wasn't thinking about Lewis Seen, right? Because we got just too many other good players, right? The way Martellus plays, the way Bynum plays, right? Like the way Harrison played, they use them different position, coming off that edge, getting them blitzes. You're not thinking about Lewis right out there with what we have out there at safety. So, yeah, I wish I would hope that I would love to see the young man see what he can do. But not everyone makes it, Coach, right? Yeah. And that's the reality of it. Not everyone makes it, and he might be one of them ones that just don't make it. But I mean, I'm posing the questions. Will we ever see that young man out there?
Yeah. I think preseason is going to be huge for him. Something to watch, though, man. Lewis Seen, will he be on the field this year for the Minnesota Vikings? That was a good one. I got another one for you, Pat. I was doing a podcast about a month ago, and I'm not ashamed to admit this. I was on my friend's podcast, and we were talking Minnesota Vikings football, and I was praising Brian Flores. And anybody that watched the Minnesota Vikings defense last year, I don't care what their stats were, you had to be really happy with what Brian Flores brought to this team in terms of execution and philosophy. To be quite frank, he took over a bad defense, man. I mean, so areas where they fell short, you can't really fault Brian Flores, because I think the good sign of a good coach is when he can bring the best out of the personnel that he has. And yep. I think Brian Flores did that. But I was on this podcast and I was talking to my friend and I was praising Brian Flores. And the one thing that he hit me with that kind of shocked me, and I have to admit, I wasn't prepared statistically for this, is that the Minnesota Vikings defense was ranked 28th in the league last year. And to me, that was just mind-blowing, because if you look at that defense, I mean, there were some games where we won because of our defense. Like, there was a streak of games where if our defense doesn't get it done, the Minnesota Vikings have a horrible season. Like, they don't win those games. And the one thing you could hang your hat on was Brian Flores and his boys were going to show up. So after the podcast, I went and researched, and sure enough, Vikings defense was ranked 28th in the league. And I said to myself, if that's the 28th ranked defense in the league, of course I want to get better, but I'll take that. So the one thing that I want to see this year from the Minnesota Vikings, staying on the defensive side of the ball, because you brought up Lewis Seen, I want to see if Brian Flores and his defense can take that next step. Anytime you look at Brian Flores and where he's been, whether it's a defensive coordinator, head coach of the Miami Dolphins, that second year, his defenses leap forward by leaps and bounds. And can he get in that top 10 in terms of defense? He's added a lot of pieces. Again, that wasn't his personnel last year. So now he's added some guys that fit his defense a little bit better than the guys that we had last year. Can Brian Flores and this defense take that next step is something that I want answered and that I'm going to be watching.
I think it's going to take the next step, right? It looked like the number one, like if you had an agenda, right, for off season, right away it looked like, okay, defense, let's take care of this defense. Let's get Flores guys in there.
Yeah.
And stats can be skewed a little bit, right? So if you think about it, think about how we were losing the turnover battles. So that means our defense is now on the field that much more.
Yes.
Right?
Good point.
And you think about when Kurt went down and the quarterback changing and the 3 up outs, that means that defense is out there more. There was a time in the middle of the season where they were a top 15 defense, but the offense wasn't producing. So now you're on the field more. So they were getting the stops, and then the offense come out there and they're right back out there, and now they're moving the ball. Well, that's going to look different, right? When at the end of the game, right? The stats, right? You're not going to see, oh, it was a quick 3 and out. Oh, it was a quick turnover, right? They got to get back on the field, So if the offense that you're going against is getting that much more opportunity, well, yeah, for anyone's defense is going to look bad. So I don't think the 28 justified the how much better we got from the year before. The personnel he has in there, they love it. I know JG and DT loves it, and Cashman's coming in here, and he's got Grinkle, who he had over in Miami, and Ivan Pace, right? He might have the green dot, so I mean, everything that's surrounding, it looks like, man, it can be special. It's one of them things where we need it. If you look at how the NFC North got better, right? The NFC North got better, right? Especially offensively.
Yeah.
This defense has to become one of the top ones, and I think that's why Flores is still here. He didn't go anywhere, right? Consistency. Right? That's a good word right there. And they know professionals need consistency. And, to have the consistency within your coaches, right? So that you can develop the young ones and develop the team and mold them into whatever your vision is. And like they said, Kwesi and KOC had a vision, right? Early on when they both came in, taking over this organization and the defensive part of it, right? And don't get me wrong, I love Zimmer, right? But it was Stone Age defense. It became more Stone Age, right? This is that next generation, right? This is that 5K defense, right? That Flores has. I just believe that it's going to be fantastic. I think the defense will be fine, and I think, if people want to look at the rankings and the numbers, that's all going to dictate on how the offense takes care of the ball, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't be minus, double digits in turnovers and expect to have a top 10 defense, right? Now, if the defense could be top 10 and do that, or if we're turning the ball over offense, but our defense has the ability to go get the ball back and create turnovers, then that's going to be a wash. And you'll even see more production. But our offense got to help our defense out, just like defense has to help the offense out. So
that's a great point. That's a great point. I'm gonna go back to what you said, and I thought you put it really astutely when you talk about the Minnesota Vikings defense and how stats can be really skewed at sometimes. Our offense, looking back at that season last year, there were multiple games where our offense just put our defense in just horrible predicaments. And sometimes Brian Flores he was able to save us a little bit. But there are times where, if your offense really isn't doing their job, it makes it tough on the defense. Those guys were on the field a lot. And, the one thing I'll throw on top of what you said, which was really great, is we had the highest blitz rate in the NFL. I think it was like 57% of defensive plays were blitzing. Man, that takes a lot of energy. I mean, that takes a lot of gas in the tank. So when you're on the field all the time and you're playing that way, that's like pressing all the time. In basketball, you just get gassed and you get exhausted. And I think we saw that from the Minnesota Vikings defense. Pat, what's your number 3?
Yeah, that one wore down. My number 3, right? So, Minnesota and UP Nation, like, you understand this question and you understand it so well, right? We have had, ever since Gary Anderson, right? We have had kicking woes, right? It's just been a slaughterhouse of kicking woes, right? And so is Will Rashard, going to change this, right? Is Will going to change how our kicking is, right? That's my question, right? Is, we got a rookie kicker, out of Alabama, high percent kicker there, effective. Does he change things for us? And what's been all sorts of, we could go through a bunch of kickers that just have ruined everything for us when it comes to playoff time.
Yeah. This kid is from Alabama. And you are right. I think having a great, consistent kicker takes a lot of pressure off of Sam Darnold, J.J. McCarthy, whoever the quarterback is going to be. And I think what's always hurt the Vikings is that kicking game is always kind of iffy. And so when you have an iffy kicking game, that attributes to a lot of dry spells on the offensive end, because arguably you should be able to get to the 35-yard line the majority of your time if you have a legit offense. So at least, even if you're not scoring touchdowns, you're consistently putting points on the board. Those type of things help you, number one, expand leads if you have a lead, and keeps you in ball games if you have a kicking game. So you're right. That kicking game, and the guy that's coming in from Alabama, who's played in some big games, got to keep an eye out on that. Because if he is legit, I mean, obviously he has a big leg. He's played in some big-time games, but you never know how that transitions to the pros. If that kid is legit, I think that only enhances the Vikings offense.
Yeah, we spent the 5th round, which blew everyone away. You spent a 5th round pick on him, right? That means, man, this must be the answer right here, right? So, it's always fascinating to see what happens. Like, it's one of the things in camp, right, that I always pay attention to. Like, I don't know how many people do, but I'm one of the people when it's camp, I'm paying attention to the kicker. Right, I got to see if this man out there, do we got to bring another kicker in to compete with this kicker? Like, I'm always worried about that. Our punt game has always been good from special teams standpoint, but in our special teams coach now, I forget what his name is. He's fantastic, but I'm just always curious about the kicking game, man. That's 3 or 1 point, right? That you have an opportunity to put on the board, right? It's 3 or 1, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's why
inches.
Yeah. Well, that's why we call you the sports guru, Pat, because you don't overlook anything. A lot of people don't pay attention to the kicking game or special teams, but we talk about winning in all 3 phases. KLC uses that term all the time. That's one of the 3 phases where we have to improve on special teams. So I like your number 3, man. That's really, really, really good. Number 4 for me is the impact of the new guys. Kwesi has been criticized for his first draft. A lot of players haven't panned out, haven't gotten a chance to get on the field for whatever reason. So now I think he's coming off a pretty good draft, and I think they're coming off a pretty good free agent period. This is year number 3 for them, so they've been able to incorporate their guys, and they're starting to phase Zimmer's guys out a little bit. So I'm looking at names. I'm looking at J.J. McCarthy, Dallas Turner, Walter Rouse, Will Rickard, Michael Juergens, Levi Drake Rodriguez, Sam Darnold, Aaron Jones. I mean, you can go on and on and on with all the new additions. I want to see what the impact of these new additions are, because on paper, it looks like Kwesi hit a home run with the salary cap the way it was. Obviously we lost Daniil Hunter. Obviously we lost Kirk Cousins, but it seems like we've done a really, really adequate job of replacing those two big impact players for us. I'm really interested to see, okay, they went into their off season, they targeted these players. I just want to see their impact. I want to see the impact of the free agents. I want to see the impact of the people that they drafted and see how all of these things come together.
That's that. I mean, that's coach. Like that's like that. In my opinion, that might be the biggest hurdle, right, for us outside, right? I guess the
Yeah.
quarterback plays in. You got all these new pieces. That's a good question. That's a good statement. That's a good. Curious minds want to know, right? Vikings fans, we want to know. How I feel about it is that we talked about it, long in the tooth versus youth, right?
Yeah.
And if you talk about like the guys that have left over the years, right? The last 2-3 years that have left, they've been older guys, not being young guys, right? And we brought in more youth, right? When you talk about the ages of all the players that we brought in, 99% of the players are 27 years and younger, right? So that's youth in football, right? You're not even coming in the league till you're 22, right? 21,
Yeah.
22. So you at least 4 or 5 year vet, but you're not a 10-year vet, right? And I think that's essential for us. I when you get to see that, we talk about generational, right? So on the defensive side, you get to see more speed when you get the young guys, right? And on the offensive side, I mean, more speed, skillful things to see. Yeah, man. What is the impact of all these? The verdict gets out, coach. The verdict. Like I'm optimistic, right? And like I'm a believer. I'm a believer until you show me something different.
Okay.
Right? Is that fair enough to say? Like I'm
That's
a
fair enough to
believer
say.
until you
That's
show
fair.
me something different, right?
That's fair.
And one of the people like that, I'm gonna tell you that I believe in journeys, right? I believe in the journey of life, right? And the way that life takes you, and the way that if you have your faith in the right place where it can lead you, and who I'm really talking about is Sam Darnold when I talk about that, right?
Yeah.
And his journey of being one of the best quarterbacks in college football to going and being in bad situations and struggling, right? And he's been through 5 years of adversity nonstop, of just being able to fight and keep fighting and not giving up, and to now be placed in the best situation in his entire career, and to probably have never thought that he'd be in this situation to do something for himself and for a team, right? Because he's going to end up doing something for himself. He out there successful. He's going to get his bag elsewhere, right? Because J.J. McCarthy's our future quarterback, right? But these guys have this confidence in him, and I just I'm really hopeful that he really can be what I think he can be, because he's got the talent. Like, that's not a question if he got the talent. And he's got this because he's still around, and he's been in 3 different systems. This is his 4th system being in. And something about life, like, you just go through that and you come out on the other end so much better, and you don't want to take it away. Like, he'll talk about this experience 10 years from now, and success or not success, he'll say, I had to go through the other things to get to where I wanted to be. And that's part of life, right? And so he's about to go through it, and I'm excited to see what Sam's going to be able to do.
Yeah, great points. The life journey is a really peculiar one, and you never know once you get to that fork in the road how things are going to turn out for you. You look at a quarterback like Rich Gannon, what he was when he was with the Minnesota Vikings, and then when he went to the Raiders. I mean, completely different player. The name's escaping me right now. I'm zoning, but the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, Geno Smith.
Geno Smith. There you
Yeah.
go. Geno Smith didn't work out with the Jets. He's having a rebirth with the Seattle Seahawks. So it's about coaching. It's about personnel. I mean, all these guys can play. Great points, Pat. Pat, what's your number 4, man?
My number 4, what I want to see is, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, but we really ain't touch into it. And I know there's so many things that factor into this happening, right? But what I want to see is a run game, and I want to see Aaron Jones. And is Aaron Jones the answer to the question when it comes to the run game, so that we are a balanced team? And we really, more than any time, we really need to be a balanced team. And I know there's a lot of factors come in play. The offensive line, right? The quarterback, right? Is the quarterback able to throw the ball downfield? But beyond all that, Aaron Jones, like the way he ended his year last year was fantastic, right? In the playoffs, he was fantastic. Can he be that fantastic for us? Is his addition, like on paper, our weapons look massive, right? Our weapons look like some of the best in the NFC, with the quarterback being the question. But forget that. What's going to happen at running back?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that if Aaron Jones is healthy and the offensive line is healthy, Aaron Jones is going to run. Aaron Jones' biggest obstacle has not been performance. His biggest obstacle has been his health. When he was healthy with the Green Bay Packers, that dude ran over everybody. That's why I was really surprised that the Green Bay Packers let him go. But I get it. Sometimes you get tired of these players that are always not available. Like they always say, the best ability is availability. And he hasn't always been available. So I think we got a good running back. I think he has another 2-3 good years left, but he's got to stay healthy. And I think with Ty Chandler and Cam Akers to be able to spell him so he doesn't have to tote the rock 25 times a game, I think is going to help him injury-wise. I think KOC has always been a pass-first type coach, and I don't think he's heavy on the pass side. I mean, me personally, I honestly think he wants to go 60-40. I mean, I think that's his philosophy, but we never really had that run game, like you said. But now we got that weapon. We got Aaron Jones. So if he's healthy, man, I think that is probably one of the biggest improvements that the Vikings can make on their squad to enhance that running game for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he is a talent, like you said. You made a great point, Coach. Right? Available, right? Availability, right? Him and his health, right? Because he got injured a lot. But something else that I think that he can bring to us, and I know you paid attention to it, and it's one of my biggest complaints about our offense was our screen game was trash.
No screen game.
Like the screen game was trash last year, and I couldn't even baffle. Like I was like, how can you be a professional team that doesn't know how to run a screen, right? How you cannot run a screenplay? That is that's like not being able to throw a change up in baseball, right? How you a pitcher and you can't have that pitch with all your other pitches, right? Like
right.
The screen game is change up, and I'm gonna tell you something right now, man. Aaron Jones is a hell of a screen running back, right? If you get that man and you get them blockers out there and you get him in open space, right, it is dynamic, right? But we gotta do a better job at our screen game, Coach.
Yeah.
It was not a good screen game, and I want to see something better. But like, what's the promising thing is Dalvin Cook. When we had Cook, we had a fantastic screen game, right?
Yep.
So I guess the running back dictates that, and having Aaron Jones, like that's my question. Like, hopefully he changes some things for us.
Yeah, I think he will. Moving on to number 5. My number 5 is really doesn't have anything to do with X's and O's or Vikings personnel, but it's one thing that has really bothered me over the last couple years, and that I want to look for this year. My number 5 is, can we win games at home? The Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings have a rabid fan base. I mean, some of the greatest fans in the country. You've said it numerous times. We are a Minnesota Vikings state. We got a lot of good teams: Timberwolves, Twins, Gophers, what have you, Lynx. But we are a Minnesota Vikings state. You know, we go how the Vikings go. And I've seen the whiteouts. Fans all come dressed in white. You know, Fox, when they broadcast our games, they show the crowd doing the skull, you know, clapping their hands. And it's one of the most intimidating venues that you could ever walk into as an opponent.
Yeah.
And the Vikings haven't had a great home record under KOC. I mean, how many home games did they win last year? 1 or 2? Yeah. And, you know, in those environments, like, the Vikings have to start taking care of business at home. Games that they should win, they lose at home. Games that are rivalry games, they lose at home. When the environment is there, they don't seem to perform. Now, a lot of people threw that on Kirk Cousins, you know, and stuff like that, where he couldn't perform in prime time. I don't know, man. Now, Kirk Cousins is not there.
Right.
Kirk Cousins is not there. So now, I know we got new quarterbacks and young quarterbacks, man, but the Minnesota Vikings, they got to find a way to win at home. If I'm the Wilfs, that's not good for business. Like, I think the Vikings are always going to be popular, man, but the fans come out in droves for some of these games where the Vikings have the environment to be able to do things, and they just don't seem to come through at home. So I'm looking to see, can we win at home and take care of our business at home this year? That's my number 5.
Oh, that's a good question. And man, the tradition, the loyalty, the all those adjectives to describe what we are as fans to you, Minnesota Vikings, like, that's like major. Like, we're like, sometimes you're looking at some stadiums where it's not packed out, they got a bag over their head, right? That they're a fan. You ain't never going to see that here, right?
No.
You're going to sell out nonstop. Always going to sell out. So you have the support, right? You know, Skull Nation, right? We coming out strong, right? And we out there fierce and strong for you, right? We out there no matter what the temperature is, right? We're gonna be out there, right? We might have a little tailgate going on, right? Getting all little juiced up with some good eating and drinking and fun, right? Whatever it is, and we're gonna be loud, right? You're gonna have advantage. You have home court field advantage nonstop, right? And you gotta continue to give the viewers something to be excited about, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll be pissed for a couple of days, but we'll be back there the next one, expecting you to show up, right? And really good teams don't lose at home, right? That often, right? But I'm not going to hang a hat on whether that makes or breaks you. You can't be consistently losing at home, but I'm not going to say it makes or breaks you, right? Yeah. And I'll give you an example. Week 1 last year, the shocker that shocked some people, right, was, and it's not even a Vikings game. It was the defending champions, the Chiefs. Detroit went into Kansas City in week 1 in Arrowhead Stadium, and they beat them, right? So I will not sit and say that, you know, you can't lose a home game. A is different than many, you know. So, I mean, there's, like you said, this is the year 3, and we've had some personnel changes, consistency in some coaching things. Fantastic all season by a general manager. KLC, here you go.
Yeah. Minnesota Vikings win some home games, man. Win some home games.
Win some home games. Yeah, win some home games, because I'm telling you, when I come in there, I'm different. I'm feeling different when you walk in there.
Yeah.
I remember the first time, Coach, I went to a game was in Metrodome, right?
Yep.
And this is me, right, becoming a fan. This is my third year in the state of Minnesota. I think it's 1997 right at this time. And like I walk into the Metrodome and it just hit me. I was like, what's going on right now? Like it was the atmosphere, the everything it was this adrenaline rush. And I've been chasing that rush ever since. Like, I love that rush. That's why I love going in there. That's why I love supporting them, because there was this rush, right? I didn't know nothing about scolding really or nothing. And there's something about that skull, right? That's just, that's untouchable. So, let's take care of our field, right? Home field.
Yeah. Pat, what's your number 4, man? Your number 5, man.
Man, this one is, I'm glad I saved kind of this one for number 5, right? Because you really don't know. Is this it for Harrison Hitman Smith? Like, I didn't want to ask
You
this
had
question.
to bring that up, Pat. You had to bring that up.
I'm just, is this it? Is this it? Like, I didn't want to start the show off with it, right? I didn't want to start, that would have put us in a depression, right? We talking about Harry the Hitman. Is this it? Is this Harry's final season as an NFL player, as a Minnesota Vikings? He showed last year he still can do things. He take care of his body well. He's utilized fantastic by B-Flow. We know he's always got this leadership in him. The man stays healthy, right? The man is available all the time, but how much longer can Harry the Hitman go? How much longer?
Yeah. You know what bothers me about Harrison Smith, and on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably a 15 when it comes to being a fan of Harry the Hitman, is that the Vikings put out this documentary under their Minnesota Vikings channel on YouTube, and they were showing Harrison Smith at home and all the contraptions that he has down in his basement to kind of stay in shape. And, the one thing that hit me hard was at the end of the season in that documentary, Harrison Smith was talking about how sore he was, how sore his body was, and that would determine how quickly that went away, whether or not he came back for this season. I definitely think it's getting to the end, which is sad for a fan of his. But I think last year, if the Vikings would have had a better season, meaning making a run in the playoffs, I think he would have been done. I don't think he comes back this year. But the fact that he's taking pay cuts for this team to help this team get better, a.k.a. Jalen Brunson for the New York Knicks, I think Harrison Smith has been the type of individual that's always team first. And if he feels his body starting to slow down and he can't perform at the level that he wants to perform at, I know he has a standard. This could be it for him. It's going to be interesting to see. This is obviously he's teeter-tottering between this being his last season and not. I don't think he has any interest, Pat, in playing anywhere else other than the Minnesota Vikings, because he could have left and got a bag somewhere else for 1 or 2 years. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Definitely got to keep an eye on that. That's a good number 5, man. That's a good number 5. I didn't even think of that, but I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, come on. He's like, who else? I think he might be the oldest veteran on this roster.
Yeah.
If you look at it and drafted by us, who's been here longer than him? Who's been to as many training camps as him? Who was at the old Winter Park and been at this one? It like he under different ownership, right? Everything, like he's been here that long.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And I love our loyalty and his loyalty and the commitment to each other, and for him to be able to play for one organization his entire career.
Yeah.
And I know he was revamped last year with B-Flow's offense and the defense and the way he was going to be used, right? And that revamped his mind, right? So I think, the mind controls the body, so it allows him. So does he still have it in him left in motivation, right? That's my question. Is this it? How much longer more can he play? How much more can the other ones develop, right? So that he can walk off into the sunset.
Yeah. I won't go into depth. I'll keep the conversation private, but I know you had an opportunity to speak with him last year during training camp. And I think it's safe to say that he portrayed to you that he loves the Brian Flores defense. So I think that had something to do with him coming back again for another year, because he, like you just said, I think you're 100% right. He loves the way he's being used in the Brian Flores defense.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are good. Those are our 5 things, UP Nation. Good ones. Good ones from the side of Pat Buchanan. I think good ones from my side as well.
Oh, fantastic ones, Jones, man. Fantastic ones. Like, I was like, oh, you just put me there, right? It was almost like we was playing, start, sit, cut, erase, I was like, oh, man, because right now when you talk about purple, right, it's like, I love every other sport, but when we're talking about personal, there's some emotional that comes into it, right?
Yeah.
Into play. And we was hitting some emotions on some things here because we want to see them. We want to see the best.
Yeah. 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 Well, UP Nation, you got it. Those are our 5 things. We're really, really passionate about the Vikings. Man, I can't wait for this season to get started. I want to wrap up with some Q&As, Pat. We got some Q&A. So I reached deep into the UP mailbag, and I got some good questions. I'm gonna start with my guy Arlo from St. Louis Park. Arlo's question is to you and I, Pat and Lionel. What if Sam Darnold has a great year? Is there any way he resigns with the Minnesota Vikings? I'm gonna sit back and let you Pat, start with that one, my friend. If Sam Darnold has a great year, do the Minnesota Vikings sign him to a long-term contract with J.J. McCarthy still in the wings?
Man, this is why you gotta love UP Nation, man. They throw some things out there, and I love the mind of UP Nation, like the in-depth of thinking, right, by UP Nation, right? Because this is an in-depth thought, right? I'm not thinking about this. Oh, man. You traded up to go get this guy, JJ.
Yeah.
The only way that, I'm trying to answer your question. The answer to your question is you can't, because you spent a first round pick. So he has 1 year, and that's why it's a 1-year contract. If oh my goodness. Okay, I'll give you an example, brother. Okay. It's back when Randall Cunningham was the backup for Brad Johnson. And
Ooh.
Randall Cunningham had that fantastic season. The next year, Brad Johnson was the quarterback, and Randall Cunningham was the MVP of the league that year. But Brad Johnson was our quarterback. I could be wrong in that, but I'm pretty sure in 1998, that's what happened. 1999, Brad Johnson became the starting quarterback back again. Am I right, Coach, in that?
No, you are absolutely correct. But I will preface that by saying Randall Cunningham wasn't playing as well. And Randall Cunningham was playing so bad at one point that he asked the coaches to take him out of the game because he just wasn't playing well. So kind of like the whole Brett Favre thing, that second year he really couldn't return to form. So they had to make that move with Brad Johnson.
So I mean, to answer your question, I don't think you can, like Coach. Some of you talked about it before. They won't put us in places where it's controversy. Well, I honestly believe that there can be controversy with Sam Darnold, right?
Yeah.
I do. I'm one of them people. I believe in Sam Darnold, right? I believe in JJ, but I believe that he needs development. You can't re-sign him because you traded up and you drafted this kid in the top 10 pick of the NBA NFL draft. So I don't think that you can keep Sam Darnold. Well, he's so young though. So how do you not? No, listen, this is me trying to answer the question.
Listen, here's my take on that. That's a tough question. Great question, Arlo, from St. Louis Park. Here's my take on it. The way he phrased it was, is there any chance? So I'm going to say, yes, there is a chance that we resign Sam Darnold, but a slim chance. I think, honestly, Pat, it is Super Bowl or bust for Sam Darnold in terms of a long-term contract with the Vikings. So
Okay.
if he makes a Super Bowl run and he's putting up great numbers, like you said, great point, he's a young quarterback. How do you get rid of that, man? You can't. That's a bad PR move. If this guy leads you to the promised land where you have never been before, and he's young and he's playing well, you got to sign him to a multi-year deal. You can't let that walk out. And then that only puts more pressure on J.J. McCarthy, especially if he comes in and is playing bad. Now, let me say this, the second part of that. If Sam Darnold has great stats, kind of like what Kirk Cousins does every year, has great stats, and the Vikings miss the playoffs or they make the playoffs and they're one and done, Sam Darnold does not sign a long-term contract here. I think he gets his bag, and I think he signs a long-term contract elsewhere. But, man, other than a Super Bowl, I think this team is bought in on J.J. McCarthy. I think the fan base, for the most part, until they see him play, has bought in on J.J. McCarthy. I don't think you hinder that man's development by giving Sam Darnold, even if he has good stats, a long-term deal here. So I think he has a chance, but I think it's a very slim chance that he would resign here for the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay. All right. Good question, though, man. Good question.
Yeah, really good question. This is Brett from Buffalo, Minnesota. Lionel and Pat, are you concerned about Andrew Van Ginkel's injury going into training camp? You
Yes.
know, when I heard Van Ginkel was injured and they're saying he's probably going to start training camp on the PUP list, that's huge because I think he's one of our key free agent signings. And he is someone that's played under Brian Flores' system in Miami. So he knows the verbiage. He knows the reads. He's somebody that's really, really valuable to the defense. But all the reports that I'm hearing is that he may be on the PUP list for a couple of weeks. And even if he was healthy, I don't think that they planned on playing him in the preseason anyway. I think he does have an advantage because he comes from B-Flow's system in Miami. So even if he misses time in training camp, yeah, he'll be behind maybe conditioning wise, but mental reps and knowing what he's supposed to do, I don't think that's going to hurt him as much because he knows the system. I just hope that this is not one of these injuries, Pat, that lingers on for the whole season because I think he's going to be a valuable piece to the defense.
Yeah, he's going to be a valuable piece, but he's going to be, and I look at it in this. So to answer your question, yes, he won't start it, but I look at his injury. I look at his injury hindsight as being a blessing to us, right? And this is where I'm gonna go a little bit in depth for you more. Is he gets to coach DT now, right? He gets to coach up Dallas Turner. Because he can't be on the field, but he gets to help Dallas Turner with his development, right? And I don't feel like Dallas may not be an every down whatever, but maybe he can be, right? We're going to need Dallas out there more without Van Ginkel. So I think he gets to help this young man out more right? Even in games of coming to it, yeah, you don't get to be out with him on the field, but you will soon enough. Yeah, I just when the injury, I mean, that's one of them bummer things. But we knew it when we signed him, right? It's not something that happened afterwards. We knew it as what he was still recovering through when we signed him this free agency. Um, hopefully he's just rehabbing, him and Hawk is rehabbing the right way and we can get him out on the field.
Yeah,
'Cause
the
we need
Vikings
him.
made a statement. Yeah, the Vikings made a statement that Andrew is going to be ready to go. They expect for him to be ready to go first game of the season. They're just going to take their time with that injury and not force that situation. Great question, Brett. Last question, Eric from Fargo. I've heard you guys talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves a lot in different trade scenarios. The team that is currently the Minnesota Timberwolves with the rookies and the current players, is this their team for the year, or will they make another significant move? I'll let you go first with that one, Pat. That's a tough one, man.
I feel like if I feel like Conley's super smart in how he does stuff, right? And it would shock me if they made a big move before camp, right? Before October. Would shock me. But it wouldn't shock me if they made a move came December, January. So I think that's how I can phrase it best, right? I'd be shocked if anything is done before the trade deadline, before December and January. If anything's done before December, January, then I'm blown away. But hopefully it's the move for the best. And yes, they are going to make a move. That is what I believe. I believe they believe. We'll see. We'll see. We'll just see, right? But I believe there's a move to be made.
Yeah. I think this is their team for training.
It's going to be a basketball and this collective bargaining agreement move, right? With the aprons, right? It's going to move to benefit us in both ways, on the field and in the front office financially. So,
yeah, I think this is their team. I think this is their team for the start of training camp. I think Tim Connolly, Finchie, I think this is the roster that they want to try to make work. They want to keep Big Cat. They want to keep Rudy Gobert. They're going to see how all of these pieces fit. And then they're going to go through an analysis process from the start of the season until close to the trade deadline. I think you're right. If things aren't looking good or aren't feeling good, they're going to make a significant move because they don't want to lose their window in terms of having players under contract, having one of the youngest teams in the NBA, having a dynamic superstar in Anthony Edwards. They want to maximize that. So I don't see, if things for some reason aren't feeling good, and I'm not even talking about wins or losses. I'm talking about philosophy, execution on the floor, and only Finchie can know that. I think if things aren't feeling really, really well for them, they will make a move at the trade deadline going into that second half of the season and going in to the playoffs. But if things are rolling, I like where the Minnesota Timberwolves are. The question is always going to be Big Cat and how he develops his game. I know you've been saying consistently, he's a big man that shoots a lot of threes. You would like to see him inside. Totally agree with you. Like if Big Cat had a sense of urgency to use his post-up game as well, instead of standing out there, shooting threes, I think this helps this basketball team. But to answer the question, man, I just, I think the first half of the season is going to be crucial. I do think they go into training camp with this squad, with this team. And they'll reevaluate around Christmas time, like you said, around January, to see where they are and see if there's a move out there that could help this team win some basketball games.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I love what they've done so far. I love where they're at. Not necessarily need of a move right now, but we'll see. Time will tell, right?
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Coach, I got a bonus question. Can I get a bonus question in here at all?
Yes, sir. You the sports guru. You can do what you want, man. What's the bonus question?
So my question, not a concern, just the question is, there was 4 rookies yesterday, 2 days ago, that were not signed. First round.
I know where
rookies,
you're going with this. I know
right?
where you're going with this.
So there's 4 rookies weren't signed. Two were from Chicago Bears, right?
Yep.
Rome and Caleb Williams, they signed. The other 2 were Dallas Turner and J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
What's going on with Dallas Turner and J.J. McCarthy getting signed before rookie camp starts next week?
Yeah, I think with the Dallas Turner situation, this is my opinion, man. I haven't really heard anything. I think they're waiting to see what the other signings look like so they can give Dallas Turner the best contract that they can give him. I expect Dallas Turner to be signed by the start of training camp when he's supposed to report. So I think that's the hang up with that. I think that's going to come by Saturday or Sunday. I think the Vikings are going to get that deal done. As far as J.J. McCarthy, here's the hang up that I heard, and this is a significant one. J.J. McCarthy is due a $13.5 million signing bonus. And that's the hang up. The Wilfs want to spread that out throughout his rookie, his first year deal. Like the first year of that deal, they want to spread that out throughout the year. J.J. McCarthy wants his money up front. Like when he signs, he wants that 13 mil. So he's saying, I'm your franchise guy. I'm the guy that you're putting a lot of stock in. I'm probably not going to play early on or be the number 1 quarterback, but obviously I'm that guy. I want my 13 mil up front. And the Wilfs are saying, well, odds are you're probably not going to be playing this year, so we can spread that out throughout the course of the year. And from what I hear, that is the hang up. And if they do not agree on that or get that done, I don't know what's going to happen. I honestly don't see J.J. McCarthy holding out because I think if he does hold out, that may be a bad look for him. But it could happen. In terms of him signing, I'm not worried about him signing. That's going to happen. The question is, when will that happen? Because he needs to be in training camp on Sunday. He doesn't need to be holding out. I think that's paramount for him. But that's what I heard is holding this contract up, Pat.
Oh, well, that's, I don't know. Obviously, the podcasts, any sports, whatever, we're all going to have our opinions, right? And there's
Right.
nothing against anybody in it, right? And my opinion is throughout of all the offseason that you've seen, whatever you've seen, this shouldn't be a holdup. If
No.
what you've seen you love, this should not be a holdup.
I agree.
With DT, what contract are they looking for, right? Every first rounder has signed besides the 2 in Minnesota. Every first round. So that's where you're judging everything from, right? DT dropped. Yeah, hopefully DT isn't looking for top 10 money because he should have been top 10 draft pick, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is when it comes to JJ. If JJ shows y'all enough in OTAs, this should be done. But why should he be the first? I don't know if it's the first, but I'm going to just say this. First that I've heard of, top 10 quarterback pick that has to get his spread out and he doesn't get this signing bonus. Like, that's the thing of being a first round. You were excited about getting that signing bonus, right? You getting that signing bonus, right? And not saying that they not going to give it to him. If he's due 13 and, and he does not agree, well, give him, I don't know, give him 9 and spread the other 4 out through it, right? Does he agree with that? Like, you got to work with him. And, the worry that they figured it out with JJ and his contract, Jets, they'll figure this out as well. I do believe that.
Yeah, I've learned to trust Kwesi. Everybody was on Kwesi whether or not they'll get the Justin Jefferson deal done. They got it done. This is just the way Kwesi and those guys like to do things. They're very meticulous, sometimes a little bit slow, getting things done, but they have their process and their process that they go through. I think the one thing that's hurting J.J. McCarthy, where KOC in these guys, they got to stop playing games, is that they're, he's going to be third string quarterback behind Mullins and then behind, man. I don't see any way that J.J. McCarthy is third string. I think he is going to be the backup to Sam Darnold to start the season, whether or not he takes over in the middle of the season or not. So, that type of terminology, third string, I think sometimes holds up these contracts, because the thing is, I've even heard the term, Pat, that he's going to be redshirted this year. So if I'm the Wilfs and I'm signing the checks, am I going to give $13 million to a red shirt all up front when I can kind of spread that thing over the course of the year? I do think, though, the Wilfs will capitulate. And I think whatever J.J. McCarthy wants, he's going to get. And I believe by Sunday, he's going to have the contract that he wants, and he's going to sign, and he's going to be on the field that first day of training camp.
Okay. Well, good. Can't wait to see him out there. So
yeah,
get it done.
Yep.
Sunday's a report day for the rookies. So like you said, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, this has been a great show, Pat. Always a good show. Always good
Vikings
to be on here. Yeah.
Love it. Vikings talk.
Yeah, Vikings talk. There's going to be more of this, more Minnesota talk again. So hit that like and subscribe button. Pat is hungry to talk Minnesota sports and Minnesota Vikings sports. Same with me. So we're going to keep giving you that content. We're going to wrap it up. This has been Unconventional Playbook. I'm your host, Lionel Jones, along with the sports guru of Minnesota, Mr. Patrick Buchanan. Honored to have him here. Pat, anything you got to say to UP Nation before we get out of here?
Nah, UP Nation, you're right. Continue to tune in, share with your friends. We're here. Continue to throw those questions out at us. I love them. I love the Q&As, right? I love the way that you guys think, UP Nation. I'm telling you, you're thinking of things that maybe I am, maybe we are, or we're not thinking about, but I love because it lets my mind go into deeper thought about sports and Minnesota sports especially.
Awesome, man. You know what? And I think we may do a whole show of Q&As, because you should see some of the emails and the comments that I get. Some of them I haven't had the opportunity to use on the air. So I think we may dedicate a show just to get some of those good questions out there, because a lot of people have some good insight about things, and we'll definitely do that. But this has been Lionel Jones and Patrick Buchanan. This has been Unconventional Playbook. We will see you when we see you. Latre, take us home, man.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am?